And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Patricia Mwanza. She's from Discovery. She's in the group business continuity and disaster recovery team as their manager. And a big thank you to our EXCO member, Pavana, who works with Patricia, who organized Patricia's time for us this morning. Patricia, thank you. We're really looking forward to hearing from you. I have no doubt that in your space, in Discovery, in the medical and insurance industry, it must be going mad at the moment in terms of preparing, looking at what you need to do, what is coming. Patricia, thank you very much. Over to you.
Yes, it has been an adventure. And for me, it has been something that I never thought I'd see myself in a pandemic situation and managing the recovery of the business. But it has been some good learnings and some good insights. And I think after all of this, I can go for my doctor's degree. So today, I'm just going to take you through our journey as Discovery, as how we approached, how we went through the whole COVID-19 and how we arrived at where we are. So I'll take you through our standard business continuity planning, past incidents, the response to the pandemic, and what the future looks like. And then we can have some questions, and then we can take it from there. So our planning is based mainly on the 6 pillars of business continuity that we know that are guided by the GPG, and our plans are we've designed them in a way that they are highly dynamic and that we can adapt to any situation. We've planned for the worst possible case, but not a pandemic. We planned for loss of a building, making that we cannot access the building at all, and we cannot get there. Something happens to the building, to the physical structure, but we never envisioned that we would actually be in a pandemic situation. We've looked at pandemic plans in our business, and we've always had a high-level plan that we always thought, okay, one day we'll get to the detail of this and see how we can really natch it up and zoosh it up and get it going into a place where we can pick it up at any given time. But as we know, pandemics come in different forms and sizes. So this has been a good space for us, and our plan is also, as we go, being revived, being revamped, being looked at in a different site as well. So we look at the 6 pillars, the skill sets, the premises, the documents, the equipment, the third parties, and the IT systems. So all of this we've got in place, the plans are in there, and we have a structure where we just have to call upon our coordinators, and our coordinators will execute according to the environment, to the incident that we have, that we're acting upon, and we move in that space. So in the past, we've had a couple of incidents within Discovery, and we've looked at a couple of incidents where we've really adjusted and our plans have worked. They've done quite well. Where shortcomings have been, we've always been able to pick up, remediate, implement, and revive our plan. We've done lots of testing, and we've done lots of fixing up, making sure that we are as ready as can be for the situation that we may find ourselves into. And as we were watching the pandemic unraveling, we were looking also at our partners that are in China and seeing any learnings that we could pick up from them, see what it is that they were doing to try and contain it within the workspace, and pick up some of those learnings as well. So as the situation was unraveling, coming up, Wuhan went into lockdown, we looked at the countries that were being affected. We looked at it once it hit Europe, and in that state, our doctors internally, we called the CMT team to come together. We called up the COVID-19 team, that we call it, and there it's headed up by the doctors that we have internally. And with that, we came up with certain protocols that we had to adhere to within the organization at that early stage. And the doctors also advised in the session, saying to us that, look, this thing is moving and it's moving fast. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's going to arrive in South Africa. So we need to be as ready as possible. And we started moving in that space. So as those incidents started happening, we looked in that space and we thought, this is how we're going to respond to the situation at hand. And if we see, we went back to the 6 pillars that we underpin our business continuity plans with, and we look at that, and we looked at a robust communication strategy. So during this phase, we looked at people, skill sets, all the pillars that we look at, and we thought the best thing that we can do in this stage is to make sure that we are in a good space for our environment, for our people, and for the business to continue at large, should we ever have to be in a state where we have to be evacuating the building and working from home. Least did we know that that situation was coming faster than we thought it was. So with our response, the first thing that we really had to tighten the bolts and make sure that we were in a good space was the communication. As most of you know on this call, that in a crisis like this, communication is very, very important. And we had prepared way before, tweaked it, modified it, did or changed it as and when situations were changing, internal communication and external communication. We had made sure that we had the message that we wanted to put across. We had to be quick, transparent, consistent, and accurate. We had to communicate to our people to make sure that they were comfortable with what we were telling them about the disease. Communication to employees went out to just highlight what the disease is, where it originates from, how it's transmitted, the do's and don'ts of that disease. And we also communicate to our contractors, our members, our hospitals, and all our vitality partners as well. So we were full force in doing a consistent 2-weekly cycle communication as we were going. And when patient 0 was tested positive in South Africa, and it was announced by the government that we had a positive case, we were quick to send out a communication to our members just to make them aware of all the medical benefits that were available for them as well, and they could access. We had to make sure we communicated to the hospitals, to the doctors that we deal with as well. So each one of these areas had targeted communication that was specifically to make sure that we were, to highlight that we were ahead of it. We were making sure that we had the right tools in place, and that we could support any of our partners as and when they needed our support. And with the people and skill sets, so we had to look at people and say, how do we keep our people safe? How do we make sure that our people in all our buildings across all regions, they are feeling they're in the right place? It's not a drag for them to come to work feeling that we are exposing them in any way whatsoever. Prior to the lockdown, we looked at implementing spatial separation within the office across the building. So it was one desk on, one desk off. We made sure we implemented that. And we sent as many of the workforce that were already able to work from home to go and work from home from that time. Sanitizers were placed in strategic places around the building. And within the building, the doors were left open, so less touching of door handles took place, and additional security personnel were placed at high-risk areas. An internal COVID-19 response team was created, which comprised of our internal doctors that got in touch with staff that were positive, suspected cases, and they did contact tracing as well, and provided support where needed. Where we encountered a positive case within the building, we would do fogging overnight and make sure that we also do the same. We contact trace whoever that person has been in touch with within the organization, and we make sure that they're advised of what's available for them, and the assistance that they need would be in place should they feel they need to to speak to somebody more than what the information has been given to them. And only the qualified doctors are able to do that within the organization. And then we looked at vulnerable staff according to the criteria that was that is set out by the Department of Health. And the aim was to get the vulnerable colleagues out of the office as quickly as possible. So what we did before level 5 lockdown was announced, we went into identifying who these individuals were. So people were advised that they need to come to their managers and say, this is my state, I'm in this criteria, and I need to be out of the building. And so a lot of people came forward and they were identified. And within that, we picked up the number of people that we needed, and we realized that we needed to order laptops for them so that they could get home, and for those that didn't have laptops. So when the level 5 lockdown was announced, we had to go into serious overdrive. So we had a couple of days before the actual date arrived. So we had to go into overdrive, and our technical teams worked overnight, where we found ourselves in a space where we couldn't get the full amount of laptops that we needed. And we had to go to one of our suppliers who had emergency stock for us, and we were able to get 450 laptops on site, and our technical teams worked overnight to ensure that those laptops were re-imaged and ready for our people. In the morning, the individuals that could come into the office came in and collected, and those that were seriously not able to come into the office, we had to ship off their equipment with a DHL, and they were delivered directly to their homes, and anything that they needed to get them up and running. So there was annual leave as well that we had to consider. So there were individuals that had already applied for leave. So the choice was given to them either to cancel their leave or to carry on with their leave. And those that were in a position that they couldn't be in the office and they are in an environment that they're unable to work, even if you give them equipment, the environment does not allow them to do any work. Special leave was put in place for those individuals, and they were able to go home. So when the lockdown date came of the 23rd of March 2020, we had approximately 8,550 staff working from home out of a complement of 10,500 or so. So our teams really went over and above and really pushed to get the teams up and running that needed to be operational from home. Within that space, we had to look at the premise where we are. What are we doing? How is the environment? Are people safe? Are they feeling okay when they come into our environment? So as we worked through, we sat with our health and safety team and with the guidance of the doctors within the organization. We've implemented temperature scanning that is done before anyone can enter the building. And anyone with a temperature of 37.3 anyone with a temperature higher than 37.3 is not allowed to enter the building, and their name is recorded in our register, and they're asked to go home. All staff that show any flu-like symptoms when they arrive at the office, they're sent back home, and they are monitored by the COVID-19 response team. And during the day, as the day progresses, there are 2 rounds of temperature readings that still takes place during the day. So that would happen upon arrival, and somewhere around 11-ish, 12-ish, another round is done of temperature checks. And also just before the end of the day, temperature checks are also taken. And then we had also activated our visitor protocol. So with that visitor protocol before the lockdown, anyone entering the building had to complete a visitor questionnaire. And if any answer showed that they had been in presence or in a country of COVID-19 or with an individual, they were not allowed into the building. They were asked to go back, and if they needed to have a meeting, to have a remote meeting with the individuals that they were coming to meet at the offices. And after a while, I think that visitor protocol only lasted for about maybe 3-4 days, we moved into a situation where we thought, no, no visitors should actually be allowed in the building, and only staff and contractors were allowed in the building, because if you come to 1DP, the first floor, the ground floor, is basically open and public, so we just limited entrance into the building. We also imposed a travel ban. We all international travel that was happening had to go through the approval process, and all country hotspots were automatically no-go areas. For example, China, Italy, and the US. We just asked all staff not to even think of going there personally or business-wise. And in that space, if you had been in that country or coming back, or if it's any of our staff members that are based either in China or based either in USA, if they come in, they had to isolate and not come into the building for 14 days before they could meet with any of the staff that are based at the building. They had to do remote meetings. So as time went on, travel was just completely stopped within the organization. And as we moved on into that space, we looked at the office hygiene as well. Initially, we were just doing the normal cleaning protocols of maybe twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, but we just changed it up with alcohol-based cleaning agents. And as time went on, we had to change that. We had to move up to a stage where cleaning had to be done every 4 hours, and all call center stations that are shared, we had to split all of those up, where we have some operators that actually share workstations depending on the shift they come in. So we removed all of that. Each person had their own workstation and all that set up, and that had to be cleaned every 4 hours, change of shift. All cleaning had to take place at that time. Escalators had to are being cleaned every hour, washrooms every 45 minutes. And at the moment, as we stand, all lifestyle services, the gym, beauty salon, retail shops, walk-in center, the Ensure Fitment Center, all those are closed at the moment. And we only will open these services according to the government restrictions in each level of lockdown as we move into that spaces. So those are some of the journeys that we had to go through from a building and people aspect. And then as we had to get all our people out, we had to make sure that our people actually can get home and can get working. So typical IT people, when you ask them, if we do A, B, C, D, will it work? The best answer is yes, it will work. So we had to get the workforce sent home, and IT personnel guaranteed that all of the environments would be able to cater. Within the first couple of days that we had a big contingent of staff at home, we used Pulse VPN on the first couple of days, and it could handle 2,500 concurrent users. The max it could burst out was 5,000 users. And within 9 hours, we were able to go live with Cisco Anywhere. This is a product that was in project phase. It was in testing and still pending sign off, and it could give us what we needed. It could burst out to 10,000 concurrent connections, and at that time, we just went live with it, and it's working wonderfully well. Our people are able to connect, our people are able to log on, and they're able to continue with their day-to-day. Users complained of speed, and after investigations, it was narrowed down to the network saturation in specific geographical areas that they were in. We had users waiting for routers to allow them to be online and working. These were the guys that we had to send home that don't have any connectivity at home. So we had to provide them the routers so that they could connect. And lead times were not in our favor. So we quickly went into a solution that is known as tethering. And what we did with that was we got in touch with our service providers, Vodacom, Telkom, and MTN, provided them with our IP addresses that they could allow our people to log on from wherever they are with their cell phone being a hotspot, and the charge of that data would not go to the employee, but it will be charged back to Discovery. And as time went on with that, we realized it wasn't a workable solution, because in that state, if the phone is a hotspot and a call comes in, it drops that connection. And before the user even knows what's happening, their actual data is being depleted off their phone. And we thought it was too much for the employees to be dropped off. Some could be in a call with a member and they lose that connection. So then we resorted back to making sure that we could quickly put up routers for them. So we are phasing that solution out, and we're replacing it with routers. So we're dispatching, and some that are able to come and collect from the office are coming in to collect. From a telephony point of view, for non-call center staff, we didn't have much of a problem there because most of the back office teams are on Skype for Business and Teams. So all of that, they were able to connect and carry on. The challenge we had, not mainly so much of a big challenge, but was for our call center staff. Because if our call center staff being home and being desktop bound as well, so we had to make sure that they had to leave and go. And for them to be able to take a call, we had to use Avaya 1X and divert that call to their mobile phones as well. So that has been working quite well. Our teams are able to carry on and do the work that they need to do and attend to all our members. Cybersecurity, our security team were already tightening up the screws, so to speak. They were monitoring and ensuring that all precaution was taken while in lockdown. All security measures that were implemented while in the office still apply, and improvements are still taking place as we go. And our day-to-day IT support backlog, we did go in a little bit of a backlog right in the beginning, but after a while or so, we're able to catch up and are able to service our internal employees that need IT support. Okay, and when it came to equipment, so as I was saying, some individuals did not have connectivity. We had to make sure that they had what they needed to make for them to connect at home. So we provided routers and APN cards. And while people had to go home and we didn't have enough stock of any equipment that they needed, they were able to take their desktops or thin clients, pick them up, whatever was on their desks, take it with them, set it up at home and get going and start working. Monitors, desktops, and thin clients were picked up as well. And we even had some staff members that have special ergonomic chairs. They could also take those chairs home with them. And most of our staff work off a second screen, and they were also allowed to take whatever it is that could make them comfortable to work from home, to take whatever it is that was on their desks to go home and be used during the lockdown. Asset tracking was done. Obviously, an asset removal call was logged. Forms were completed and signed off by immediate manager and given to security to confirm the asset number and stamp it and keep track of or keep a record that certain assets were taken out of the building. So we tried to push as much as possible to get all our people out and make sure that they were comfortable, to an extent that they didn't have any issues saying they're not comfortable, they're unable to work due to ABCD at home. Our suppliers, our third-party suppliers came to the party. I think they went far and beyond what we expected them to do. Where we couldn't get certain equipment, they went and they sourced. I don't even want to know where they got the stuff from, but they went and sourced it and managed to find everything that we had requested. It may not have come on time, but it was delivered to us as we went on. We were also able to provide all our COVID-19 related vendors with letters to allow us to allow them to be able to support us during the lockdown, as we were deemed as an essential service. And during this time as well, we're able to to buy certain items in bulk, like sanitizers, and our seasonal flu vaccine campaign, which is run in the office. We're also able to provide that and make sure that our members our staff were able to get the normal vaccine for the flu season, and priority was given to our high-risk colleagues that we found that are in the organization. In the early years, as before we moved to our new building, we had initiated a project called paperless environment. So in that period, we had managed to scan all documentation. Everything was online. So in this space, this is one thing we can say, we can pat ourselves on the back for that. And our teams were able to just access all their documentation wherever they were, because everything was available online. What's the new future state, the new normal? At the moment, our return to office is broken down in 5 stages. The 5 stages are following the government 5-level stages as well. So as the levels are lifted, we move and adjust our plan according to that. We're keeping as many staff at home as possible. We're facilitated special separation in the office. This has even gone further. The more people we get out of the office, the more separation we create in between all the levels. All the staff that are high risk are to stay home until level 1 or COVID-19 vaccine is available. Workforce transformation, we're looking at spaces where now most of our workforce is preferring to stay home because they find themselves to be more productive whilst they're at home. And this is a strategy that we're working on at the moment to see how we can accomplish that as we come along. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed that journey that we went through. I'll hand over to you.
Patricia, thank you very much. Very insightful. I don't know if you're following the chat box. No questions, but a host of compliments for a very detailed and very practical presentation and very insightful. So not having questions, I just wanted to check on your last comment. You said that you are revisiting the idea that not all staff will go back to the office as a future strategy of Discovery. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, you did.
Excellent. Well done. Okay. With that, thank you very much for your presentation. And Gillian?
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And good luck with the work that you're doing at Discovery. I'm wondering how busy it is there right now, and I'm sure you are being kept incredibly busy with what you're doing.